Tales from the Mythos.
The Arctic Outpost Incident. Chapter 1. The Station at the End of the Earth. The Miskatonic Antarctic Research Station was the last place on Earth you wanted to be for winter shift. A few metal buildings, barely insulated from the wind, surrounded by endless ice. Albert Albright had seen it before, 2 years ago. He had barely left with his sanity intact. Now, Miskatonic University had sent him and 3 others to keep watch through the long Antarctic night. One of them would make it out sane. Chapter 2. The First Incident. The Fall. Harry had been checking a vent outside the main building. Routine maintenance. Albert and Elizabeth were inside checking the logs, and Ahmed had been making tea in the kitchen. Then they heard the scream. Albert and Elizabeth ran outside, just in time to see Harry vanish into the ice. Ahmed arrived a second later, eyes widening. "Jesus! What happened?" Albert dropped to his knees, peering into the hole. 15 feet down, Harry was sprawled in the snow, groaning. "It just opened up," he mumbled. They pulled him out, patched him up. Broken arm. Nasty gash on his forehead. An accident. Except, later, when Albert checked the security cameras, he saw it. Harry had walked around the sinkhole first, stomped the ice down, deliberately weakened it. Albert said nothing. Not yet. As they sat in the common room that night, the heater humming softly against the Antarctic cold, Elizabeth poured herself a generous glass of whiskey. She took a slow sip, then shook her head. "That was some bad luck, mate." Harry sat stiffly in his chair, wrapped in a thick blanket, his arm freshly bandaged. He gave a weak chuckle, rubbing his forehead where the gash had already started to scab over. "Yeah, I guess." Albert studied him carefully. "You sure it just opened up? It looked like you were walking in circles first." Harry blinked, frowning slightly. I don't remember doing that. I must have been disoriented. The wind was bad out there. It was hard to see." Ahmed leaned against the counter, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You weren't lost. We all saw it. You walked right to that spot, stomped around it for a while." Harry looked up, face pale. "I did." Elizabeth swirled the whiskey in her glass. "Yeah, mate. Like you were testing the ice." Harry swallowed, eyes darting between them. "I swear, I don't remember doing that. 1 second, I was checking the vent, and the next, the ground was gone." Albert tapped his fingers against the table. "All right, let's just call it a freak accident for now. But if anything else weird happens, I want to know about it immediately." Harry hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, of course." Ahmed exchanged a glance with Albert. Neither of them said it, but they were both thinking the same thing. This wasn't an accident. Chapter 3. The Second Incident. The Locked Door. 3 nights later, Albert woke up, gasping for air. At first, he thought he was having a nightmare, but then he realized his room was freezing. His breath came out in thick clouds, his skin already numb. The heater was missing. He groggily stumbled toward the door, reaching for the handle. It wouldn't budge. His fingers were stiff, the cold biting deep. If he didn't get out soon, hypothermia would set in. Bang! Bang! He slammed his fists against the door. "What the hell? Let me out!" Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone was standing just outside. Then, without warning, The lock clicked open. Albert yanked the door open, flashlight in hand. The hallway was empty, except Harry's door, down the hall, was open, just a crack. Later that morning, Albert sat at the metal table in the common room, his hands wrapped around a cup of lukewarm coffee. His fingers still tingled from the cold, and his breath hadn't fully evened out since waking up, locked in his freezing room. Elizabeth sat across from him, staring at him with narrowed eyes, while Ahmed leaned against the counter, arms crossed, his expression again unreadable. Harry was at the far end of the room, nursing another cup of coffee, but he looked worse than before. Paler, his eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in days. Elizabeth was the first to speak. Okay, that's two now. First, Harry takes a dive into the ice. Now someone locks you in your own goddamn room and takes your heater. And we know it was taken because there is no way you would have gone to bed without it or misplaced it. Either this place is cursed or someone's screwing with us. Ahmed exhaled through his nose. I do believe in curses, and I also believe in sabotage. He turned his gaze toward Albert. Did you hear anything before you woke up? Albert set his cup down, rubbing his temples. Not at first, just the cold. Then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. Someone was standing right outside my door. Elizabeth's brows lifted slightly. And let me guess, when you got out, no one was there. Albert nodded. Except Harry's door. It was cracked open. Harry, who had been staring into his coffee, finally looked up, eyes wide. Wait, are you saying I did this? Ahmed didn't move, didn't blink. We're saying your door was open when Albert checked, and you've been acting off. Harry shook his head rapidly. No way. I was asleep all night, I swear. I've barely been sleeping at all. His voice lowered. The voices? Elizabeth sat up straighter. Voices? Harry swallowed hard, gripping his cup tighter. I hear them at night. I thought it was just the wind, but now, I don't know. They whisper things. Albert's stomach twisted. What kind of things? Harry's face was pale. They say they were here before us. Silence hung over the room. Elizabeth finally let out a slow breath, shaking her head. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts or whatever, but I do believe in bad signs. And that, mate, that's a bad sign. Ahmed nodded. Real or not, if something weird is going on, we need to stay sharp. He glanced at Albert. What do we do now? Albert exhaled. We keep an eye on each other. No one goes anywhere alone. And if anything else happens, anything at all, we talk about it immediately. No one disagreed, but as Albert studied Harry's face, he already knew. They were running out of time. Chapter 4. The third incident. The radio. Ahmed was the one who found it. The radio shattered, not just broken, smashed into pieces. Harry stood next to it. His hands were bleeding. Albert's stomach dropped. I didn't do anything, Harry said. They are the ones who did it. Ahmed let out a slow breath. We have to lock him up. Albert stood in the communications room, staring at the shattered remains of the radio. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides, jaw tight. The only thing connecting them to the outside world, smashed beyond repair. And the worst part? Harry had been standing right there, his hands bleeding, smiling like he had done something good. Now, Harry was locked away in the storage wing, barricaded, contained. Ahmed sat at the table in the common room, rubbing his temples, his notebook closed beside him. Elizabeth was pacing, arms crossed, her face tense with frustration. None of them had spoken much since they dragged Harry away, but the silence couldn't last forever. Elizabeth was the first to break it. All right, we're saying it now, out loud. He's lost it. Ahmed nodded slowly. I didn't want to believe it, but that was deliberate. That wasn't an accident. He knew what he was doing. Albert exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Yeah, and now we're completely cut off. No radio, no backup coming until the next supply drop, and it's the dead of winter out there. If we don't handle this right, we might not make it out of here at all. Elizabeth stopped pacing, bracing her hands on the table. So, what's the move? We can't just sit here and hope he calms down. Ahmed leaned forward. We keep him locked away. As long as he's barricaded, he can't hurt anyone. We control the food, the water. We decide what happens next. He looked between them. But if he gets out again, we put him down. No hesitation. Elizabeth's expression hardened, but she didn't argue. I don't like it, but yeah, we have to be ready for that. Albert nodded. Agreed. For now, we reinforce the barricade, make sure he stays in there. No one goes anywhere alone, and we keep watch, day and night. Elizabeth smirked humorlessly. What's the worst that could happen, right? No one laughed. Ahmed glanced toward the hallway, where Harry was locked away. If he's already gone, what do you think did it? Isolation? The dark? Something else? Albert didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked toward the ice-covered window, out into the swirling white abyss beyond the station walls. Something's always been here, he muttered. Maybe it just needed someone to listen. Chapter 5. The fourth incident. The fire. At 3 a.m., the smoke alarms went off. Albert bolted out of bed, coughing, eyes burning. The main lab was on fire, but that wasn't possible. Harry was locked away. And yet, as Albert grabbed the extinguisher, he saw him on the other side of the flames. "You should have listened!" Harry called through the smoke. Albert grabbed his pack, his voice tight with urgency. "We're leaving. Now." Elizabeth threw on her coat. "How?" He's watching the exits. Albert's mind was already racing. "The caves." Ahmed frowned. "The ones under the station?" Albert nodded. "I mapped them 2 years ago. There's a back exit, a way out. If we collapse the tunnel behind us, he can't follow." Elizabeth strapped on her sidearm. "And if we run into something worse down there?" Albert exhaled. "Then we hope you keep your perfect aim." Ahmed pulled a small, well-worn notebook from his pocket, flipping through its pages. Ancient symbols, rites of protection. His hand hovered over one, as if trying to decide if it was worth attempting. Then he shoved it back into his coat. There was no time for rituals. They had to run. They slipped out of the barracks, careful to avoid the main corridor. The fires had started to consume the entire research station. The smoke still clung to everything, thick and acrid. The hallway lights flickered, a sign the generator had taken damage in the blaze. They'd be in total darkness soon. Albert led them toward the hatch in the storage wing, pulling aside the stacked crates that concealed it. "I never liked this place," Ahmed muttered. Elizabeth helped him push. She replied, "I don't like it now." They pried open the heavy metal hatch, and the cold, damp breath of the earth hit them immediately. The cave yawned beneath them, black and endless. Stale, icy air drifted up from its depths. Albert motioned them forward. "Hurry." Ahmed hesitated at the threshold. "And if this is exactly where it wants us to go?" Albert met his gaze. "Then we make sure we get out first." They descended into the dark. The tunnels were worse than Albert remembered. Walls of glacial ice twisted around them like frozen ribs, shifting under their own weight with deep, groaning sighs. The ground was uneven, slick, littered with bones that were too old to be human. The air had a strange, almost electric weight to it. as if the walls themselves had memory. Ahmed whispered a prayer under his breath. Elizabeth kept her gun raised, the faint glow of their flashlights catching the shine of her pistol's barrel. Albert moved fast, mentally mapping the twists and turns. He knew the secret passage, a narrow crawl space leading to an old service tunnel that would take them out to the surface, far from the station. They had to reach it before Harry found them. But then, a sound. Distant at first, then closer. Wet footsteps on stone. Laughter. Echoing. Twisting. Not coming from one direction, but from everywhere. Elizabeth's breath caught. That's not possible. Ahmed stiffened. He's in here with us. Albert shone his flashlight behind them. The tunnel was empty, but something moved in the darkness beyond. A shape, just at the edge of the light. Tall, thin, wrong. Then the voice, clearer now. Harry spoke, but he sounded like several silent, whispering voices all at once. You can't run from us, Albert. Albert's stomach turned to ice. It wasn't just Harry's voice. There were others now, layered beneath his words. Ghostly, rasping voices, overlapping in a chorus. They were not alone in these tunnels. And then they saw them. The Shoggoth. Dozens of them. They were massive, nightmarish things, bigger than a subway train, an ever-shifting mass of bubbling, gelatinous flesh that pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. Countless eyes formed and disappeared across their surface, blinking in and out like sickly green lights. They surged forward, filling the tunnel, crushing the panicked penguins under its bulk as it slithered over the slick, polished floor. A floor that they and others like them had unnaturally cleared of any debris, as if something far worse had passed this way before. They ran. Albert led the way, pushing forward as the tunnel walls tightened around them. The deeper they went, the more the world seemed to close in, the air growing thick, pressured, unnatural. Ahmed cursed in Turkish. I hear them too, prayers spoken backward. Elizabeth muttered, if they get any closer, I'll shoot. The passageway narrowed. Albert's lungs burned as he reached the hidden crawl space, a narrow slit in the stone, barely wide enough for them to squeeze through. This way, he shouted. Elizabeth went first, wedging herself through the gap. Ahmed followed, pushing past with a grunt. Then, a hand grabbed Albert's coat. A hand that wasn't human. It was too long, too cold, fingers stretching like bone and sinew wrapped in ice. Albert twisted, shoving himself forward, and the thing screamed. Not like a man, like a storm ripping through an ancient tomb. He scrambled through the passage, heart hammering, landing hard on the stone floor of the old service tunnel. Ahmed and Elizabeth pulled him up. They ran through the service tunnel, wind howling ahead of them. Albert saw the exit, a jagged opening in the ice, moonlight bleeding through from the other side. Harry's voice wafted through the cavern behind them. You think you can leave? A shadow moved through the passageway, barreling toward them. Albert turned. Now! Elizabeth raised her gun and fired. The bullet hit the ceiling. The tunnel collapsed, stone and ice crashing down, sealing the passage behind them. Harry's scream was lost beneath the avalanche. Then, silence. Not just silence, the absence of sound, like whatever was down there had swallowed it whole. Elizabeth leaned against the ice, breathless. Holy hell. Ahmed wiped his brow. We did it. Albert wasn't so sure. Let's go. They emerged onto the surface, stumbling out into the howling wind. The research station was a distant dot in the background now, barely visible in the storm. Their snowcat was waiting. Elizabeth jumped into the passenger seat, hands shaking. Ahmed climbed into the back, silent. Albert turned the key. The engine roared to life. They left the station behind. 200 miles to the next outpost. No guarantees, no promises. Only cold, only the unknown.
If this tale stirred something in the dark corners of your mind, don't let it end here. Like the video, leave a comment, share it with those who dream strange dreams, and subscribe so you don't miss what's still to come.